Again, I don't know what other universities are doing, but it'll be interesting to see, do you cut your nose off to spite your face? Because as America is becoming more brown, they're going to have to change the way that they approach our communities. And it is on us to force them to do that.
That was Dr. Leon Jackson, Chancellor of St. Joseph's College of Marian University, talking about how the institution is preparing and nurturing diverse talent to pursue higher education and executive leadership roles in our Indianapolis corporations and organizations. And this is IBJ's The Freedom Forum with Angela B. Freeman. So, Leon, it's so good to see you again. I think the last time we saw each other was likely around Indy Chamber's Leadership Exchange trip in 2021, I think, in San Diego, California. So it's been a long time. And I'd like to welcome you to the Freedom Forum. Now, before we get started, I'd like you to please tell our listeners a bit about you, your educational and professional background, and any other personal factors that led you to becoming an academic, a teacher, a professor, and an inspirer of students.
Well, thank you so much for having me. Being in your presence is always an honor. I think the last time that we saw each other was around Lex, and you served as the co-chair for the 8317 group and served as an individual who selected me to be able to participate in such an amazing experience. So thank you and thank the Chamber for that opportunity. And so, I'm an Indianapolis kid, born and raised, actually born in Anderson, but moved to Indianapolis when I was about 7. Went to Tech High School, very, very proud Tech Titan. And, went there, graduated in 99, went to Indiana State where I studied and obtained my marketing degree. Came back to Indianapolis for about a year, worked for a place called Martin Center, doing health education. A friend of mine called me and said, "Hey, let's move to Vegas." And I said, "Say less." so I picked up and I moved everything I could to Vegas. Got there and in the middle of the night and, thought I had a job lined up, but they played me. It's all good. I bounced back. As a kid from Tech would.
I've been there, I get it.
And so, served as the director of marketing for Qdoba Mexican Grill in Las Vegas. I did marketing for MGM Casinos, started a couple nonprofits. And as I was, having success in the nonprofit space, I was watching a Floyd Mayweather fight. And a gentleman comes up to me and says, "Hey, you should go get your master's degree." And I'm like, "Nope. No, thanks." He comes to me a little bit later in the evening. He says, "Hey, you really should go get your master's." And no interest. And, finally comes to me, he says, "Leon, you should, why won't you go?" And I said, "Well, I don't want to take the test." And he's like, "Well, I'm the dean of the education program at UNLV. You don't have to take the test." So I said, "I ain't got no money." And he said, "Well, I'm the dean of the education program. I got money. I got scholarships I can give you." And I said, I'm like, "Okay, well, when does school start?" And it was a Sunday night by this point. If anybody knows boxing, it kind of bleeds over into the next day.
Yeah.
And he says, "Well, classes start on Tuesday. I need all your stuff in on Monday." And so I'm like, okay. So I scramble, I get everything in. I start classes on Tuesday.
Wow.
Fast forward, I'm finishing my master's in workplace learning and performance from UNLV. And I had a Korean professor. She never said anything to me. She never spoke my name. I didn't know she knew my name. And I'm in my last class with her, finishing up my master's, thinking about kind of what's next.
Right,
I'm moving out of Vegas, trying to do something different, really kind of have my eyes set on Florida. And this professor comes up and she says, "Leon, you should go get your PhD." And I'm like, "What? Like, why are you talking to me first off? That's strange. You ain't talked to me in 2 years, but now all of a sudden you got a whole lot to say about a doctorate program." And so I'm like, "Nah."
She's been watching you.
And I'm like, nah, it's okay. So she comes back to me again a couple other times and she says, finally, if you don't at least apply, it's going to affect your grade. Now, if you'd have told, 17, 18, 19-year-old Leon that if my A is going to go to a B plus or a B, cool. I'm going to take it all day. But I worked hard. So I'm like, okay, when does this thing due? Well, you got 3 days. And so I'm like, okay, all right, I can get this in. So it was a Thursday. I submitted all my stuff, Saturday. Sunday night, I get an email saying I have an interview on Monday. And I go and I do the interview and I walk in the room and it's her interviewing me. And I'm like, oh, okay. I got set up.
Yeah, here's the setup.
But, I kind of got punked into that one as well. And so what I always say is, I was stupid enough to listen to people who cared.
Yeah.
And, I was a kid at 14. I moved out of my mom's home. I moved in with my best friend and his mom. And I knew when I went to my mother, I was like, Mom, I think I'm going to drop out of school. And she said, okay. My brothers had dropped out of school and wasn't a big deal. And then I went to my best friend's mom and I said, hey, I think I'm going to drop out of school. And she picked up a knife and chased me. And that night I asked her, I was like, is it okay if I stay here?
Yeah.
And for me, I knew that she wanted so much more for me.
Absolutely.
Because of just that act. And to that day, to this day, I call her mom. I keep her, informed. My kids call her grandma, the whole nine. And so, was in Vegas, finished my doctorate. My son was about to be born, and my fiance wanted to be here in Indianapolis. And so I'm like, I'm going to leave the snow. I'm back to the snow. But all good. So I came back. I moved back in January or February of 2016, worked at Indiana Black Expo for a spell, and then met Dr. Kenneth Britt over at Marian, and he said, hey, we need you over at Marian. And so I transitioned over there, and we had not only great success, but great fun. It's been a pleasure and an honor to work with him. And so, really just had a great run. And, the first day on the job with Dr. Britt, I got an email saying, hey, we extended our deadline. You still can get your MBA at the University of Notre Dame. Now, I was telling you before, my mentor is, I have several. Vop Osley, Bill Mays was a great one, Judge Shaheed. And Bill Mays would always tell me, forget that law stuff. The businessmen hire lawyers, lawyers don't hire businessmen. And so I'm like, okay, so I want to get my MBA. He really inspired me to want to go do that. And so it was kind of one of those bucket list things that I wanted to check off. So I got this email. I go to Dr. Britt and say, hey, what do you think about this? And he says, you absolutely go for it. And the funny thing about him is Notre Dame's not cheap. And so he asked me, he's like, well, how much does it cost? And I say, well, it costs, $140,000. And he says, okay. And so I leave his office and he sends me a text message with 20 schools in the area that are much cheaper. That's how you know somebody cares about you.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's like, dude, this is expensive. But, I've been very, very, grateful and happy for my experience at Marian. I've been the chancellor for St. Joseph's for about a year after some time with the education program and working with Dr. Britt and Dr. Turner, LaTanya Turner, who's now the dean. Also working with Dr. Roski, who's the new dean of the business school at Marian. And so I've had an opportunity to kind of see a lot of the spaces there. And then last year I was asked to serve as the chancellor for St. Joseph's College, which is the Earn and Learn college, part of under Marian's umbrella.
That's pretty impressive. I was joking with you earlier that you are one of the few people that has more degrees than I had. Now, I didn't know this story that you got punked into all these degrees.
Straight punked.
But that's a pretty good punk when you getting punked into a doctorate degree.
Straight punk. I got straight punk. This little Asian lady, this little Korean lady, she just looked at me and was like, I'm gonna give you a bad grade. And I'm like, so, but I'm very thankful for her and the people who have all invested in me. A kid from Tech who grew up on welfare. We literally moved every single year. Not until I was much older did I even, have a bed, own my own bed. We picked up beds off the side of the street. That's how poor we were. But to be in this space and have this opportunity is a blessing. I really am grateful for Dr. Britt, President Elsner, and my team over at St. Joseph's with, Shauna Jegby and Dr. Bessie Regakos and Eden and Kenneth Franklin. We have a great team, and we're really excited about the opportunity we have to serve students here.
So in this time of you getting duped into continuing your education, clearly you were a great student because the professor saw in you the opportunity to keep going. And so that may have positioned you in a way that didn't necessarily allow you all the experiences. So my question is, and what I'm trying to get to is, what were your experiences when you are not only pursuing your academic career as a student, but also on this trajectory as an academic career, particularly as a Black man, a diverse man, coming back to Indiana, okay, you know, how does that change from out in Las Vegas? And what have been some barriers, or have you had an experience very similar to mine where I know I have overcome or not necessarily been faced with so many of the historical and obvious barriers that, you know, people of color and women have faced? So tell me about your experience.
I've been very, very fortunate, you know, coming from tech. I didn't know what I didn't know. You know, my first year in college, I got a check in the mail, and it was $4,973.53. I'll never forget that number. And I go to, I get it, and I'm, like, this can't be for me. So I tear it up and throw it in the trash. And then I go and I get one the second semester, and I go to the guy down the hall, and I say, hey, what is this? Why do they keep sending me these credit cards? And he says, Leon, that's not a credit card. That's a refund check.
Right.
I'm like, what do you mean a refund check? Like, why would the school that cost this much owe me any money? And, it took him about 30 minutes to convince me that I could spend that money. And so I went and tried to get that back, but they would give it back to me. So Indiana State owed me about $5,000. But the experiences like that show me that the world is made up of more good people than there are bad.
Yeah.
And we let the few bad really control the narrative and really push agendas and really control how we think about one another. And so we miss so many opportunities to really engage and learn and love on one another. And so, for me, I've been very blessed in the sense that, again, I've always had people looking out for me. They say, well, God love babies and fools, and I ain't no baby, so I must be a fool. But I mean, I really have been fortunate to have the right people in my life at the right time. I mean, again, when I was 5, we were actually taken from my parents and put in foster care. And when I was 7, we were back with our parents, and they moved us to Indianapolis. We were from Anderson. But, at every turn, at any time that I needed someone, and God put them in my life before I needed them.
Yeah.
And so, so when I needed them, the relationship was there.
Yes.
I knew who I could go to in these tough times. And I mean, I needed every single one of those folks. I needed, I needed VOP when I was a junior in college. I needed Mr. Mays when I was a junior in college. I needed Ken Britt when I was, really starting my career and trying to find out how I fit in the space of Indianapolis. I needed, President Elsner when I'm trying to figure out who I am and, how do I play a part in, this bigger space that Marian is now occupying in the city and even nationally and regionally. I wasn't sure of myself. I wasn't, I might come off as confident, but everybody has, those moments where you're like, am I, the imposter syndrome, right? And you're like, what do I bring? And they were very, very good about helping me identify those spaces that I do well, and even some of those areas I need to improve. And so trusting them to put me in good positions, but also being, again, stupid enough to listen and eager enough to make the changes necessary. And so I've really just been blessed with amazing people around me, white, black, brown. I've truly been blessed when I look back on it. And really the biggest challenge for me was moving from Vegas, where, I spent, my roaring 20s in Vegas, and then moving back and realizing that Walmart does close, So, I mean, it was a challenge, in connecting with other Black men, and it was a real challenge for me. And so in starting diversity and leadership, what I've been able to do is I'm the biggest beneficiary, I say, of that program, because I get to meet so many amazing men and women doing awesome things. And I feel like I get to empower them to do more. And so, diversity and leadership has been great. But I mean, really, like I said, I can't thank Marian. I can't thank, the people that God has put around me enough, because they're the reason that I'm where I'm at.
That's so amazing. I mean, I have a pretty tough story with regard to just not having exposure and guidance and knowing where to go and that opportunities exist. You got a pretty tough story. Like, that's pretty amazing. I mean, and it should be because it's inspiring for me. I hope that it's inspiring for others to let people know, there are always tough times, but there are people put in your life. I mean, I wouldn't be here without all the people who kind of led me this way.
Absolutely.
I didn't even know this path existed. So it is very critical to have mentors. And I really like what you said about, being, I don't think you quite said ignorant enough, but, foolish enough to listen and be curious and wonder what else is out there, and what, particularly when people are pouring into you and saying, hey, you can do this thing.
Absolutely.
Have you thought about it?
Yeah.
So let's talk about diversity and leadership a bit. I know that that's one of the programs that you're talking about. But before we get to that, I want to ask you, particularly being a person in academia, I think you and I mentioned briefly, I've got a son going to college right now. Mm-hmm. We now have the opportunity. You're leading a college that is tailored and absolutely serving diverse folks and kind of your non-traditional students. And so I want to know your thoughts around, the current recent events where the Supreme Court is looking at and has the possibility to overturn affirmative action. I know, both of us kind of grew up in the time frame where at least, 20 years ago, getting more Black folks and Hispanics and diverse, that was a real push. And I have no doubt that I'm a beneficiary of affirmative action, even with, all the good grades and whatever. At that time, it was thought to be a benefit and an added value to be able to provide diversity to a college campus or community. Yeah. What do you think, and how do you think that will affect your student enrollment, the people that, you serve, and just generally from the vantage point of a university or a college who's seeking to continue diversifying its student roster? How do you think that may have impact on you?
Let me step back. I was foolish to forget the role that my fiance and my children have had in my development and in helping me stay grounded. Jasmine and that's my fiance, who's now a nurse anesthetist at Arnett in Lafayette. And then my two children, Cameron and Leon. Cameron's birthday was last weekend. Leon's is this weekend. So we have this 2-week sprint where we're doing birthdays. but I absolutely love them and grateful for them to have them as they, help me remain grounded and focused on really what my job is. And that's creating opportunities, not only for them, but people who look like them. And so as far as affirmative action, let me say, I don't know what other universities are doing and have done. I know that while many of them are trying to find artificial ways to boost enrollment, especially with Black and brown students, Marian has been on a path where, that is a focus of ours. And in our education program, normally in education programs, you'll see about 7.5%. When I was there, we were able to get diversity in the education program specifically up to almost 36%. I know that our business school was just ranked number 8 nationally and number 1 in the Midwest for diversity. I can't speak. I know our Latino initiative that has helped our enrollment of Hispanic and Latino students to 17%. Our African-American students are about 17% across the university. And so I can't really speak on other universities and their efforts, but I know that Marian's been committed to that space well before it became, popular.
Right.
And also, being mindful that it's one of those things that's where the money is now. So Marian was doing it before it was cool. I can honestly say that that's been a focus area for the president and for Dr. Britt and our admissions team for a very, very long time. At least since I've been there in the 7 years, that's been a focal point, period. What I'll say is this, as far as, nationally, we understand that the biggest beneficiary of affirmative action was not Black and brown people.
Right.
The biggest beneficiary was Caucasian women.
Right.
And so
similar to the current diversity efforts. I mean, they have been the biggest beneficiaries of all the corporate diversity efforts as well.
Absolutely. We need more women in power. We need more women in our schools, especially in our graduate programs, because you'll see, especially in business school, they're 50% of the students in an undergrad, and they'll become, 10, 15% in graduate programs, business graduate programs. So, I mean, certainly, we need more leaders there. And I mean, when women are given the opportunity, they absolutely crush it, regardless of race. We also know that, African-American women as a group are the most educated group in the country. And so, again, I don't know what other universities are doing, but it'll be interesting to see, do you cut your nose off to spite your face? Because as America is becoming more brown, they're going to have to change the way that they approach our communities. And it is on us to force them to do that. We can sit back and hope that they come and get us, right, or we can take our talents elsewhere. The marketplace is such that online schools and private schools and even public schools now need our students. And so it's on us to push them to recognize what we bring to the table. And if not, there's HBCUs, there's other spaces, but we have some amazing universities here locally that are doing, really good work. IUPUI, I know, have an opportunity to work with Phil Powell. He's about that life.
Yeah.
He doesn't just talk it. He's really active in it. Working with Notre Dame, they're very intentional about their efforts now. Butler University, Dr. Caldwell, President Danko, they're very intentional. They made some very intentional hires of recent. And so, I think we have a long way to go, but I think we've come a long way. And, it's up to us as a community to let them know, we're not just going to settle for whatever. This is what we demand from higher ed. And if they don't respond, again, there's enough outlets out there that we can maneuver without them.
So that seems to me, Leon, that you seem hopeful that even in the absence of a legal standard, that universities, at least even local universities, and I know you said you can't speak for them, I understand that, but just generally you're in that space, you think that they will still be committed to diversity, equity, inclusion in the student body, even if there's not the legal and even financial incentives to do so.
Yeah, I think locally, especially, I think we'll be fine. I think where you really see it is in those more selective universities.
Ivy League, the Harvards
Leagues.
and Yales and Stanfords, that's really competitive.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's where you'll really see it. Not that we have some amazing universities here in the state, but really where you'll see it is in those spaces. Right. But, again, it's one of those things, America's becoming more brown. They have to have strategies to attract our students, no matter what quality of education they offer, whether it's Harvard or Yale or, anywhere. They're going to have to create a strategy to attract our students. If not, they'll be closing down like some of these others. Because enough of them closing down.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. You know Jimmy McMillan, I think. Yeah. And your story, although not exact, reminds me a lot of his, like real, true challenges as childhood that you have now overcome. Nobody would know where you come from or the challenges or struggles. And so I'm always interested, as a Black female, I'm always coming from the vantage point of a woman and women of color, because we know we're typically on the bottom of the food chain. But I'm always interested to inquire as to those challenges that Black men specifically, or men of color, diverse men, face in corporate America, academia, that are specific to them. Yeah. In other words, that go beyond race or ethnicity, but are specific to your race and your gender. Yeah. And Jimmy had some thoughts about that. So I'd like to ask you as well, do you think there are specific challenges that are faced by men of color or Black and brown men specifically that may not be faced by even other diverse men or men of different persuasions? Yeah,
I'd always say so. To that question, the answer is yes. Oftentimes, it's in simple exposure, right? Yeah. We're not exposed to a lot of things that our counterparts are. We're seen as threats. You see that in how they deal with us. You see it in how they reprimand us, how they any contact that they come in, they have with us. Yeah. It's there's an aggression there that's, I don't know that's quite necessary. But again, you'll have those folks, but the majority of them are a majority of people. Yeah. Not just, white people or Black people or brown people. Majority of people are good people. Yeah. We don't live in a world like this if the majority of people are bad people. Right. So we have a lot of, just good people in the world. Jimmy being one of those. He's a guy that I go to very often. Yeah. He's big brother always thankful for him for the efforts that he's taken on with the Motor Speedway. I really hadn't been to the Motor Speedway as a, up until my 30s, because when, growing up on the east side of town, you're told, around Memorial Day, you stay away from that side of town.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of drunk people and there's a bunch of cops, and you're not to be over there. And not until I got into a wreck with one of the individuals on the board for IMS did I ever even go to IMS. And so Jack Snyder, great man. He hit me, just for the record. Just in case any lawyers are listening, he hit me. But we got into the wreck, and from there we developed a great relationship. And he was like, Leon, you ever been to the race? I'm like, no, I had never been to that race. And he's like, well, you're gonna come with me. Like, okay. I mean, he was on the board of trustees for Marian, great man, just and he invited me to the race for the first time, and I'm like, oh, is this what this is? Like, I thought this was completely different.
Right.
And so, again, kudos to Jimmy for, exposing our community and our young people to that space, because it's an amazing space. I mean, it's something we as a community, as a city, should be very proud of, no matter what color we are. And I think everybody should take the chance and the opportunity to go out and see that. And Jimmy has really opened that space up for us a great deal. So thank you to him. But I mean, there are challenges for sure. I've experienced microaggressions. I've experienced, outright, just racism. But, again, if you let that stop you,
oh, sure,
you'll always have an excuse to stop. But I'm a tech kid, I'm built for it. So, I was ready every time, that something like that came up. I was able to navigate it. Again, sometimes you just got to walk away and just be like, okay, I'll find another way around you, and then I'll see you on the other side.
Right.
And you do good work, you show up, and you're a good person. You'll have your opportunities. And again, they may not look exactly how you want them to look, but
or come when you think they should come,
or come when you think they should come.
Right.
But you do good work, you treat people well, you'll have more than enough opportunities to demonstrate who you are. And that's really what we try to do with diversity and leadership is create those opportunities and challenge companies to identify and intentionally grow their Black and brown and women talent. And so it's one vehicle, but I mean, I feel like we've had such a great impact in just 1 year.
Yeah, so I want to talk about diversity and leadership, and I want to talk about you as chancellor at St. Joseph's, because of course, I think most local folks very much appreciate Marian and who Marian is. Mm-hmm. I don't know that everybody knows what St. Joseph's is and what that kind of initiative is and who that target audience is. Yeah. So I'd like you to tell us about that, about St. Joseph's, about your role there. Mm-hmm. Who do you report to? Mm-hmm. What are the initiatives? What are the strategies you're implementing? And what are the goals you're hoping to see there?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been the chancellor of St. Joseph's College since September of last year, 2022. And so St. Joseph's is, one of our we say multinodal campuses, where we have at Marian, the Ancilla College, we have our main campus, we have St. Joseph's, and we have several satellite locations around the country. And so I serve as the chancellor. As chancellor, basically, I'm tasked with running everything pertaining to that particular campus, from recruiting to curriculum to employment to the whole nine. So we are able to lean on Marian and the structures that we have there to support. But we have a very vibrant community there at St. Joseph's. St. Joseph's is a collaboration between what used to be St. Joseph's and Rensselaer, or still is. I don't know where they stand with that, but it's a collaboration between Marian and St. Joseph's. And what we are is what we call Earn and Learn College. So our students are more traditional students. So that 17, 18, 19-year-old student, though we do support students who come, later on. Our students work and go to school. So our students are required to work. And so Monday, Wednesday, Friday, in their first year, they're working they're in class, 9 to 5. Tuesday and Thursday, they're working with an employer partner. Wow. Each one of our students earns $25,000 for the 2 days that they work. That's important because a high school graduate working 5-6 days a week will earn about that same $25,000. So our students are working the 2 days a week.
For a year? Is that $25,000 a year for the 2 days?
Yep, for the 2 days.
Awesome.
A year for the 2 days.
Yep.
To attend is $18,000. So what we want to do is provide them with the resources to pay for school, even if they don't get a single dime in financial aid. And so that allows every student an opportunity to work their way through school and not take out loans. Our generation was different, right? In that they said you go to college if you want to get a good job, and you took the debt along with it. I got so much debt, it's crazy. If you ever want to borrow some, I'll let you.
I'm about to pay mine off.
That's what I'm saying. So it could be like both of ours. And so our students, pay $18,000. That covers all of their classes, all of their books, provides them with a laptop, covers all their fees, and also provides them with a meal plan so that any day that they're on campus, they're able to eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And so what we've been able to do in 1 year, our enrollment is up about 380%. Wow. Over last year when I took over. Our applications are up now this year over last year about 1,800%. Our admits are up about 1,900%, if not a little bit more. And so our students are working and thriving. So Monday, Wednesday, Friday, they're in class. Tuesday, Thursday, they're working. Their second year, they actually switch. And Monday, Wednesday, Friday, they're working. Tuesday, Thursday, they're in class. And so, what we've been able to do, again, is really create a culture where young people know that they can come and be loved on and thrive. And so our program is about 97% Black and brown students, which is very different than most people would think of a Marian campus. Again, Marian's done great things in increasing diversity, but we're very intentional about that space. Students with GPAs as low as a 1.5 can be admitted. There's a process for those students because we want to know that we can not only admit you, but support you and make sure that you cross that stage. Once you complete the program, the 2 years, it's an associate bearing program. Okay. Once you complete that program, you're able to transfer to any of the universities, in any university for the most part. You can continue to work. Like if you really just love your job and you're at Roche or you're at, any of these other spaces, Indigo, shout out to Inez, she's big time. But, and shout out to all of our employer partners. They've been amazing. But you can continue to work if you really just love what you're doing. And the other option is to transition to Marian, where the price that you pay at St. Joe, you continue to pay that same price at Marian. So $18,000, you continue to pay the $18,000. Now Marian costs about $38,000. St. Joe costs $18,000, right? And so if you do the math, that's over the course of 4 years, that saves you, $80,000.
Sure.
Right. And so those students who transition over, are still able to save, that amount of money and it ends up being great for, the school, the community. We need educated Black and brown students.
That's pretty amazing. So basically they're coming out of high school or thereabouts, going to St. Joe, getting an associate's. So do you know how many people actually make the jump and continue their education at Marian or otherwise, like take that associate's and go on for, a 4-year degree?
Yeah, we're about 97%.
So everybody.
Oh yeah. It's a great opportunity.
That's awesome.
But again, we our job is not only to teach them, but it's also to again love on them, challenge them, push them,
build their confidence, let them know they can do it.
Absolutely, especially coming out of a time like COVID, right? Where you and I, we had a snow day and it was pandemonium, right? Don't let it be a whole week. Right. Oh man, it's crazy outside. Right. And trying to recover even from a week off, was pretty tough when we were in school. Or at least when I was in school. I can't speak for you, but when I was in school, you get a week off. That sets you back. But with these students, they've had 4 years taken from them. Yeah. And the expectation is that they come in ready. And so what we're able to do is we have to, what I always tell our staff is we have to be exceptional at remediation. Yeah. We have to get them ready, basically from taking them from a high school sophomore mindset, ability, capability, and get them in 2 years to a college level. Yeah. Not just a college level, but a college junior. Right. And so we have to be exceptional in that space of remediation and getting them ready. But we also lean on our employer partners to help provide some value, some experience, some exposure, some opportunities to mature. And so, we're very different than a space like Ivy Tech. We're intentionally very small. We don't want a class to be over 150 students because we don't want a single classroom to be any larger than 17 students.
Right.
Because again, our faculty are not only charged with teaching, they're also charged with mentoring and supporting our students.
Right.
So where most colleges and universities, they'll come in, the professor wants to show you how smart they are, and make the class as difficult as they can. Our job is to make sure that it's understandable, it's applicable today,
right,
and that you walk away fully affirmed that you understand what's happening and what's going on and how you can apply that immediately. And so that's what we're charged with, and we've done a really, really good job of assembling a team that is able to do that at a very, very high level. And then on top of that, you got the support of an institution like Marian, who works with us and supports us and our students. And so our students can live on campus at Marian if they decide to. Our students get every benefit that every other Marian student gets. Again, the difference is our students work and they have a kind of a different schedule. But other than that, I mean, they're taking classes on Marian's campus. So the experience is very, very similar. But again, we also have a culture where the students come in, they know they're loved, they know that they're known, they know that they're going to be challenged. And because they're loved, we can challenge them in a way that most spaces can't.
I so appreciate that. I have to believe that so much of your increase in admissions and applications not only is because you're doing excellent work, but it's because of COVID. Absolutely. I mean, as a parent who just had, a student go through COVID and now at the end as a senior, I think he's okay. But I certainly appreciate that there are a lot of parents who are like, no, they really are behind. Yeah. And I don't know what to do at this point. Yeah. That gives a couple more years to kind of prepare Absolutely. Them. And to your point, do some remediation, build their confidence, let them know that they can do it before they go on to that next level. And I got to believe that's probably a great comfort to a lot of parents right
Absolutely. now. And counselors, right, who are tasked with finding opportunities for young people.
Absolutely.
I mean, and you asked me how we've grown enrollment. It is through relationships. It's knowing at Tech High School, I can go to Miss Pounds and say, Miss Pounds, what students can I serve and support?
Right.
Being able to go to Believe Academy and work with their team, being able to go to Crispus Attucks and Dr. Franklin and the great team that she has over there, being able to go to Short Ridge, being able to go to George Washington. We've really done a great job with, IPS schools. So, they're doing a great job, considering all the things that are thrown at them. And so, but our job is to step in there, understanding our role, know your role, play your part. Our role and our part is to get those students, again, mindset, ability, basically from a high school sophomore to a college junior. And so we got 2 years to do it.
Yeah.
And, I'm very confident in our ability to do that with young people who are committed to putting in the work. And so, and the president has promised and has demonstrated that he'll support us in any way, shape, or form that we need and our students need. And because of that partnership and relationship and support, our students have been very, very successful in making that jump.
The Freedom Forum would like to thank all of you for joining us on this last episode of 2022. Now, let's take a quick break.
Get caught up on the state's top business news every business day with the Inside Indiana Business Radio On Demand podcast. Available now at InsideIndianaBusiness.com, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
So I was just going to ask you, but it seems like you are fully supported by your leadership and your management. What about as you're having, you said your students are about 97% Black and brown students. Is that also reflected in your faculty and staff?
Absolutely.
Do you have that kind of representation as well?
Ma'am.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely. Again, we're very intentional. Students need to see people who look like them in those kinds of roles. Again, Marian has been very intentional itself about, hiring faculty of color and staff of color. And so it's ingrained in the culture there and it's the expectation for sure.
So tell me about this diversity and leadership program at Marian and that you're involved with, that you founded, right? You
Yes,
started this.
Yes, ma'am.
And tell me how, number one, how it's been instrumental in facilitating educational and career advancement opportunities for diverse folks. And most importantly, tell me how other career or corporate entities who may be interested in getting involved can contact you or get connected to the program to either provide opportunities for your program students or provide people to go to your program.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for asking that. So diversity and leadership is designed to help create and build up more Black and brown and women executives. There's an emphasis on women who have left the workforce for at least a year.
Okay.
We understand that during COVID, almost 2 million women left the workforce.
Right.
It is my belief that Indianapolis has all the makings of the next major economic engine. We can be Nashville. We can be better than Nashville, actually. Nashville's a great city, but I believe we're a great city as well.
Yep.
You know, when you look at where we sit, the opportunities that come through here, we have everything. 16 Tech and Emily over there is doing amazing work in the innovation space. High Alpha and that team over there is really driving. Elevate Ventures is really driving interest in our city when it comes to the tech space. When you look at, you know, what we've been able to do as far as infrastructure and, you know, just health of the economy. I mean, we have it all. What we lack is talent. One of the things that I see all the time, and you might see it, you know, at least 7 times a week, I got a friend talking about, I'm moving to Atlanta. I'm moving to this space. I'm moving to that space. And Indianapolis is seen as a stepping stone city, right? Where I'm here so I can get somewhere else.
Right.
When I got people who moved to Atlanta, didn't have a place to stay, didn't have a nothing, right? People who moved to New York, didn't have anything. I mean, I'm gonna sleep on somebody's couch till I get it figured out.
Right.
I just want to be in this space. LA, very similar. Vegas, similar. You know what I mean? Texas, similar. I want to be in this space, and I'll figure out the other stuff. I'll get a job at some point.
Right.
So what we see is our Black and brown, our Black talent in particular, moving to those spaces because they don't feel like there's an opportunity here for them.
Right.
And so diversity and leadership is designed to help create more Black and brown and women executives in Central Indiana, really growing our bench because we have it all. And part of it is we don't know what we have.
Right.
We don't know what's going on here, right? We don't know where these pockets of opportunity and money are. And so we feel that this isn't a space for us. So we go looking for it somewhere else.
Right.
And so what diversity and leadership does is a collaboration. It's actually the largest collaboration between universities in the history of the state, where we partner with IU, Purdue, Notre Dame, Butler, and Marian. And they go through a 7-month program. They get an executive coach. We do supplemental programs to include a speaker series where we're really trying to build these folks up, especially in the areas of finance and strategy. Because to me, that's the biggest difference between a manager and an executive, right? Someone who understands the strategy, the big picture, how all this folds in, but then also looking at a P&L or a balance sheet and saying, okay, you know, where can I pull, what levers can I pull in order to move the organization forward.
Right.
And so we those are 2 key focuses. And so an individual goes through the program. They spend 3 days at each of our university partners. And so what we try to do is expose them to all the opportunities that are available to them from a postgraduate perspective.
Right.
And so they are challenged to take the learnings and apply it to a stretch project. And so we work with them in with the individuals and their employers to say, okay, this is where Leon wants to be. He wants to be an executive. This is where Leon is now. Now, what are Leon's strengths? What are his weaknesses? How do we mitigate some of those weaknesses and really play to his strengths to help him get where he wants to be? Yeah. If you really want Leon to be effective and inspired and hopeful and encouraged, right? And so how do you what can we do to help him get there? And really, again, we focus on, helping them build an active network. When I talk active network, I'm talking about, when you think about a party, you probably throw a great party. I've never been invited because I'm not that cool.
But I haven't thrown a party in a very long time.
Well, when you do, invite me. So I can say you throw a great party. But what happens is you get these, you're throwing a party and you have those people who show up and they just want to take pictures. They want to say, I got here, nobody was here. I got here and the food was bad. I got here and, oh man, this thing is everything that she promised, right? They just want to report what's going on in your life. You know, those Facebook folks, right? Those Instagram folks.
Right.
And then you have those people who are there to dance, right? They come, you ask them to come, you say, you know, bring something with you. They do that, and then they're on the floor dancing, right? They're engaged. They're there for what they're there for. And then you have those people who stay after and help you clean up. Right. And so we're trying to build up more people who are Black and brown, this ecosystem of Black and brown and women and white men as well, who are there to stay after and help you clean up.
Yeah.
And so in that, you know, you have an active network. So when Angela calls and says, "Hey, I need you here. I need you ready to donate $5,000. I need you to be ready to do this, because that's going to help me," right? It also helps them. We need active engagement from our network, right? Yeah, I can say I know this person or that person, but do you know them? Like, can you call them right now and they answer? Right. So we need more of those folks, right? You also need the skills and abilities. Right. You know, they can like you all day, but if you can't do the job, you can't do the job.
That's right.
And then part of that is credentialing, right? We also need the credentials to demonstrate our ability in these different spaces. And so you complete this program after 7 months. We do 2 cohorts a year, one in January, one in July. You complete the program after 7 months, and you are able to go into any of those MBA programs with a significant discount, up to 50%. You're able to forego the GRE and the GMAT requirements in most instances, and it's a streamlined admissions process. So it really is designed to eliminate a lot of the fears from having to take out a bunch of money in debt and loans to, do I fit in? Am I good enough? So you're sitting in these classes, taking classes with these faculty that will teach you in these programs. You're meeting current and former students, so you get to make an informed decision about what program fits you well. And so, you know, we've had, you know, a little bit of success in 1 year. I mean, we've had our first cohort, we had 48 people apply. We took 21. Our second cohort, we had 306 people apply.
Wow.
We took 35, but it ended up settling on 26. So of those 47 people who completed the program, 32 have been promoted at least once.
Yeah. At their jobs.
At some job.
Okay.
So 32 have been promoted at least once, 26 at least twice. Yeah. 8 of them have been promoted to executive level roles. 7 people started new businesses. 1 expanded their business from Kokomo to Indianapolis. We were able to help increase the salary. The average increase in salary has been about $40,000. That's real money.
Absolutely.
That's real opportunity. And so, you know, one of the things that I'm very intentional about is that, so what? You go through there's a lot of leadership programs out there, but the you know, I get a piece of paper, great. You know, so what? Right? Really, what has that done for me? And so being able to step into these partner institutions and get your MBA, you could also go to Marian and get your doctorate in organizational leadership. So those are real opportunities. Those are tangible opportunities. Right now, we have 11 people who completed our program out of the 47, 11 people getting their MBAs at Notre Dame.
Wow. We
We have 11 people getting their MBAs at IU. We have several people very interested in the Butler and the Purdue programs. We have 2 getting their doctorate at Marian. We have 1 person who decided, you know what, I really just want to go to Howard. That's always been my dream school. She already had a doctorate, but just really wanted to always say she went to Howard. So she went and did the online program at Howard. We have 1 person who was accepted to the London Business School from our program, and another person that is currently getting their executive MBA at MIT. And so we in 1 year, we've been able to help generate and help them obtain over $980,000 in fellowships and scholarships for the people who went and got their MBAs and doctorate.
That's amazing.
It's not bad.
Yeah. So that's the so what. That's a pretty good so what.
It's the so what.
Yeah.
Sure.
So that's really interesting, Leon. And so again, you said that these students, some of them have gotten promoted. Are these students who are self-applying, or are these students who are in a corporate environment and their corporations are applying on their behalf, or they're applying? You know, how's that work?
Yeah, so most of them are applying on their own. So cohort 2, we had 306 people apply. Cohort 3, we had 422 people apply. Wow. We had 62 did not live in Indiana. So they were going to fly in or drive into Indiana to do the program.
It's spreading.
Yeah, for
That's
sure.
great.
So we have 3 companies who are, one in Florida, one in Missouri, one in DC, saying, how do I fly my people there to get them into this program? And so now we're looking at potentially doing one in Ohio with several universities to really help their community. But I mean, for me, it starts in I again, I love our city so much. I've done a very bad job with social media and in marketing in general, but I mean, it's word of mouth.
Yeah.
You know, when you start seeing people's spouses applying, you know they're going home and saying good things.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, and so the universities have been amazing to work with. I mean, you know, when you have them calling you saying, how can we do more?
Yeah.
How can we be better? How can we continue to support? You know, that's really what makes it cool.
So as we begin to wrap up, I want to ask you, as ambassador and chancellor for St. Joseph's, you know, what are 2 or 3 tools or tips you would provide for our corporate environment with regard to hiring students that may only have a bachelor's degree? Or we talked to Pete Yonkman on our last episode or one of the previous episodes about, you know, instituting in the corporate setting programs and initiatives that's like your diversity and leadership that allow you to do both, to go get an education while you're working, and how successful and impactful that's been in the local community. What are some thoughts you have to, you know, advise our corporate environment about how they can better partner with universities and such to kind of implement some of these programs that touch on education and working at the same time, not necessarily one after or before the other? Yeah,
you know, there are several companies who have really embraced especially the diversity and leadership program as a way to, again, to build that talent pipeline. Republic Airways is one who's been at the forefront, and Rob Lowe over there and their team have really took, you know, they didn't just dip their toe in it. They dove in.
Right.
And so they've made a commitment to developing, you know, a significant number of their folks who are diverse. And so really appreciative of that relationship and that opportunity. And so diversity and leadership is a great way to identify talent, recruit talent, and retain talent. Because again, if there's no way for me that I can foresee for me to get from point A to point to Z, you know, if I don't see that, I'm going to be looking to move on, especially in today's time. I mean, you know, talent is you know, the number one commodity right now.
That's right.
You know, if you don't have the talent, you will not be successful.
That's right.
And so challenging organizations to hey, you know, I want to do this, and I need your support on this from time and resources, because but part of that requires that you go in with a plan. Like, hey, this is what I want to do, and this is how I'm going to leverage this thing to help me be better at this.
All right.
And so part of it is on us to prove the worth of and the value that we bring, but also this opportunity will add. And so companies are reaching out and saying, hey, how do we leverage this to grow our talent? I was talking to someone yesterday, and you know, he's like, we need people in this program because we understand that we will lose them if we don't develop our people. Right. And it's hard to replace good people.
Right.
As far as with St. Joe, it's a great opportunity. Young people are saying, hey, not only do I not want to take on a bunch of debt, but I get out with a bachelor's degree, and you're telling me I still need 2 years of work experience.
That's right.
And, you know, to have, you know, this degree that I work for. And so really higher ed has been inconsistent at best in producing the talent that industry needs.
Right.
And so the great thing about St. Joe is that, again, that work experience is built in.
Yes.
So you have a young person who, you know, has an associate's degree, but has 2 years of real work experience.
Absolutely.
They know the culture, they know the people, they know the ins and outs of the organization. And that's a great person to invest in.
Absolutely.
And that's a person who's going to help the organization long term,
particularly as a young person.
Absolutely.
Right? Yeah,
Absolutely.
You've got some longevity there that if you invest early, you can certainly reap the benefits on the back end.
So, you know, those who have embraced the earn and learn model, you know, initially, you know, we're like, man, $25,000 for 2 days, that's an investment, right? If you are not willing to make those kinds of investments in people, you're going to struggle to find talent. But we do a great job of working with our employer partners who have made it a point to say, you know what? This kid's going to come in. They probably never had a job. So there's going to be some challenges, but at the same time, I'm committed to developing them for not only their betterment, but the betterment of us as well.
That's right.
And so, really creating, real opportunities for the young people to learn and grow is vital. This is the time that you get them in. Waiting until they're a senior in college to engage with them is that's old, and you'll lose with that strategy. But we have some like I said, we have some great employer partners who have gone above and beyond for our students, and we've really been appreciative of their support.
That's awesome. I really like that. And I think that is a great way to end this episode, but also capitalize on so many things that Peter really talked about, because I think you're absolutely right. I remember getting a full degree and coming out and they saying, oh, but you don't have any work experience, and just being so frustrated by that. Yeah. And that's really a way to kill two birds with one stone. Yeah. And most aptly prepare the next generation of talent to truly be ready to take on the most, viable jobs, the most viable career opportunities. Yep. So, Leon, it's been great speaking with you today. Always. Thank you so much for telling us all about what St. Joseph's has going on, all the opportunities that are available for so many people in our community, particularly Black and brown people and young students who are still looking for non-traditional opportunities to follow a more traditional path. I think it's really good to let our corporate audience and our academic audience know that is a viable option right here in our backyard. So thanks for coming on and speaking with us.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me. It's always a pleasure to be with you. You're like big sister. Absolutely. Enjoy being around you, your energy. You're always, you're very wise. And so, always feel like I'm better after a conversation. And so really appreciate you and all that you do for the community as a whole, for the Black community, and just representing us well. I mean, you do an amazing job with this platform and everything else that you do. You give a lot of young people inspiration and again, you help them see that, I could do that too.
That's right. That's all we can do, right? That's the whole job. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
And thank you for being on this 17th episode of IBJ's The Freedom Forum with Angela B. Freeman. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you again to Dr. Leon Jackson, and thanks to you for joining us on this 17th episode of IBJ's The Freedom Forum with Angela B. Freeman. Please come back next month for another conversation about diversity, equity, and inclusion in the Central Indiana business community.